Hi friends, it's Lindsey from the blog Books for Christian Girls, and welcome to this new video. I have not done a recent read video for all of 2022, and we are now in April, so I have a lot of books to talk about. I'm going to try to go through them a little faster, so this video doesn't end up being super duper long. We'll see. I will be organizing them into genres, so if you would just like to hear about one specific genre or skip another genre that you're not interested in, all of the timestamps will be linked in the description below. Also, all of the reviews of all of these books will be linked down below as well if you would like to see about content or more about my thoughts or that kind of thing. Why I gave a book a certain rating I did. I'll kind of be hitting on that in this video, but again, I have 24 books. And I don't want to take up too much of y'all's time. I try to do one of these videos. Well, I say try. My goal is to always do one of these videos every 10 or so books. I think that's a good number. It's a good amount to talk about. And then I can talk a little more in depth about each book. We're not going to be doing that today. I have 24 books, lots of different genres. Let's get started. So starting off with middle grade books, I completed a trilogy, which is the Daniels sisters, and that is composed of Ansley's Big Bake Off, Ashton's Dancing Dreams, and Amber's Song, all by Camryn, Olivia, and Kaitlyn Pitts. All really cute. I enjoyed it. I gave them all about 3 stars because they were a bit young for me, but I still enjoyed it. I think the first book was my favorite, and it deals with friendship lessons and troubles like that, but also keeping your eye on the Lord as you're grieving the loss of a parent. And it was just a really well done series, and I really enjoyed it. It would be what I would definitely consider if like I had a daughter or a younger sister that was in like the age is like 8 to 12. It would be a series I would definitely consider letting her read. And yeah, it was overall really cute. Also in middle grade, I read The Secret in the Woods by Lois, Gladys, Leppard. This is a young Mandy mystery series, and we all know, I should hope, I love the Mandy series. It's a classic in my eyes, the original Mandy series. Love it dearly. The young Mandy mystery series I don't have as much fond feelings for because there's certain things that are inaccurate, if we're being honest, like compared to the first few original Mandy books and things we were told. This series tells it a little differently, and they're kind of big differences, and I'm just not the biggest fan of it. But again, this is a fun series. It's fun to see Mandy and Joe again after completing the original series of 40 books and then the one college years book. I love seeing them again. It's just not my favorite Mandy series. And then the last book I read in the middle grade category was 180 Prayers for Courageous Girls by Janice Thompson. This, as you can tell, is a devotional-like prayer book that features 180 prayers with a scripture on each one, at least one scripture, and I just thought it was really cute. I really enjoyed it. I personally gave it 4 stars. I was expecting it to be for a bit older, but it's probably best for probably around 8 to 12 still. I think that's probably a good age for it. And yes, it was really sweet. I really liked it. It covered a wide variety of topics, but a positive in my eyes, it wasn't fully just for girls who are in public school. Like, I felt there was only a couple mentions of like that kind of school setting, and all the rest were truly just like things that any girl could have a problem with, such as friendship troubles, gossip, all that kind of stuff. And I really liked that as a former homeschooler. I've noticed that a lot of middle grade devotional books focus more on girls that are in public school, and when I was homeschooled that was always kind of disappointing to me, but I think this one would work for both. So yeah, just odd little note to comment on, but I know I have a lot of homeschooler friends watching this, so 8 to 12-year-olds I think it would be a great devotional for. The next genre I will be sharing the books I've read recently is young adult, which is honestly my favorite genre, I think. I still really like my young adult. There's just something about it. And I had 2 winners of that category, and that is Barefoot Memories by Taylor Bennett, which I gave 5 stars, and then Promise Me Aloha by Taylor Bennett, which I gave 4.5 stars. This completes the Trade One series. I have so many happy thoughts about this series. I just adore it so much. I feel like I've talked about it a lot. And I know I've talked about it recently, so I'll link that video up there. And it's just, honestly, it's become one of my favorite young adult series. Like, if you like contemporary YA with good faith messages, like solid faith messages, not just like, you know, those kind of faith messages, kind of weak. This is solid. I love it. It was fantastic. I'm sad the series is over, but that just means I can reread it again, right? Yes, exactly. So, it's a really good series. I've said it before, but like if you've read Kristin Miller and you like that kind of like contemporary Christian YA books, or if you've read Kristen McGee's contemporary trilogy, I definitely suggest picking up the Trade Wind series. The character development throughout the series for the main girl, Olive, and just, it was just so sweet. I loved it. It dealt with topics. It just, happy thoughts all around for this series, and I just, I'm so excited to have finally finished it and read it because it was just so good. Moving on into fantasy. Okay, let's back up here. I never read fantasy, right? Like, that's been a running thing on this channel. It's like, fantasy? Lindsey's not reading that kind of thing, right? That's always been a thing that's like, what's Lindsey's least favorite genre? Fantasy. I mean, there's other ones, obviously, like ones I've actually attempted to read, right? So fantasy books. Never really been my thing. But I've actually been in a mood to read fantasy books so far this year, and I've made it an unofficial goal to read and review one a month for 2022. And so far I'm doing great. Like, I'm really excited. I'm doing really good. I've got 3 books to talk about. 3 books to talk about that are in the fantasy genre. I've also kind of organized all the rest of these books by star rating within their genre because I like organizing. And yes, so starting off with the lower one in the fantasy genre was Oathbound by Victoria McCombs. I gave this book 2 stars. This was one of my chance books from the beginning of the year. It was one I was possibly going to read that was on my anticipated reads list, the anticipated releases list for 2022, right? So this book, I was really excited because like this cover is gorgeous. I was excited to attempt a book I thought was going to be a Christian fantasy with pirates. There was no faith content. There was magic and dark magic, including like somebody like casting dark magic on other people to have nightmare-like things, of gruesome deaths and whatnot, and that's not really my style of reading, to say the least. And there was just a lot of fighting and killing, and I'm still for 0 on pirate books. Which honestly isn't that shocking, I guess you could say. But yeah, it just wasn't for me. It did kind of end off in a cliffhanger that I was expecting. But I don't think I'm that curious to continue to the next book when it releases. So I think I'm just going to say not to this series, but I do plan to try another book out by the author at least. Also, I do want to comment on kind of the romance in this book. I wouldn't call it toxic, but I wouldn't call it healthy either, if we're being honest. Like him. Wasn't a fan of him, to say the least. Wasn't a fan of him. It was an entertaining read in some elements, but then, yeah, just wasn't what I was expecting. But I don't really think I was expecting much. But yeah, it was not my thing. Let's just put it that way. My next book is Secrets in the Mist by Morgan L. Busse. I apologize, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I gave this one 3 stars. I was pleasantly surprised how much I enjoyed this steampunk dystopian-like book. And I had seen a lot of mixed thoughts on it. Like, I had some friends on here that loved it, other friends that DNF'd it, some that didn't like it. I thought it was interesting. I gave it 3 stars. I think I will continue the series because I want answers. One thing that was a positive for this book for me was it was not a big fantasy book. Like, it was pretty short. I think it was about 300, if not less than 300 pages. And that really was nice, in my opinion. The thing I think that a lot of people either really like or dislike, and I was kind of meh on, was that there's like zombie-like creatures in this book. And that is basically because of this deadly mist that has gone down into like everybody's had to move up, right? I am terrible at giving book synopsises. Hang on, let me gather my thoughts. So there's this deadly mist going on like in the lower part of all these villages, and so people, the wealthier people, have had to move up to get away from the mist, because when you breathe in this deadly poisonous like mist, it turns you into this zombie like creature. And now zombies are not something I've read about. Like, I don't think I've ever read a book with zombie like things. And the thing though about this one that I think that made it okay for me was that it specifically said that the soul of the person that breathed in the mist was gone. Where the main girl wasn't sure yet, because we're only seeing a little bit of faith from her, and I'm hoping the next book will have more. But their soul is gone, so the body of the person is kind of become like a mode of transportation for the virus to continue spreading. Did that make sense? I don't know how to explain normal books. How am I supposed to explain fantasy books? But yeah, it was interesting. It ended on a cliffhanger. I do expect to read the next book though in this series, because I would like answers, and then I think I'll judge from there, like, do I want to buy a copy, or am I okay with not owning a copy of both books? I don't know yet. But yeah, it was interesting, and I have other books from this author on my TBR that I want to read, so we'll see on what I think about those. Yeah, this one, it was interesting. It gave me a lot to think about. I had to deal with a corrupted government, and I like that topic, apparently, because you're going to see that theme in more books. My winner for the fantasy genre in the last couple months was Ignite by Jenna Terese. I gave this book 4 stars, and I actually read this one during a reading vlog I did recently, which I'll link up there, because I go much more in depth into my thoughts on this book, because I was so pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it. It was a much thicker book than I'm used to reading, especially for a fantasy genre, but I really liked it. It has to do with the premise of what if those with superpowers were not considered superhumans, and then the main girl is attacked by, I guess you could say attacked, by a person with fire powers, and then she gets these fire powers, and she decides to turn herself in to this facility that the government runs. But of course, can we trust the government? I mean, in this book. Can we trust the government in this book? But yeah, it was just really clean. I really enjoyed it. No romance of this book. I think the second book that's releasing, I believe, in the summer will have a bit of romance in it. But yeah, really clean, really enjoyed it. It was just really refreshing to read a book that the romance was not the main center of the plot. There was a lot of things going on, and I just really enjoyed it. Yeah, I definitely will be getting a hardback copy for my bookshelf so I can talk about it in more future videos. So for the mystery and suspense category, I have quite a few books to talk about. Okay, we'll just get started. So, Lifelike by Lynette Eason. One of the books I believe that was also on my anticipated reads for this first half of the year. I gave this one 2 stars. This probably, now I've read a lot of this author's other books, and one of her books, Moving Target, I've always said is like the creepiest book I've ever read. This one might rival that. It might even surpass it. I'd have to reread Moving Target to find out, and I don't really plan on doing that because creep levels, but yes. Okay, so this one was pretty creepy. There was a few parts I had to pause and kind of just set down the book for a minute, which I don't typically do. I'm typically like a boom reader, like I just keep going, right? This one was a little hard to do that. There was a lot of points, like when I was posting. There's the beagle. Daily Daisy Bark. Where was I? I don't know. Oh, Lifelike by Lynette Eason. Yes. Okay. It was on the creepier side than I expected. When I was posting on Instagram and I was reading it, I had a couple of my dear book friends message me going, does it get creepier? And yeah, it kind of did. It wasn't my favorite. I do plan to continue on with the series. One more thing on that though is that I really didn't like the romance element of this book. I just never really got like supporting their relationship, and I think it's honestly because they had already met prior to the book and we were seeing them again, but like they already had feelings for each other, so it was just a little strange for me. It wasn't the typical romantic suspense books I've seen, and yeah, I didn't really vibe with the whole their romance. And then the killer, the villain of the book was one of those twisting scriptures villains, which I've seen a lot in Christian fiction and the romantic suspense genre, and that's just not, yeah, I feel like I can do with any of the serial killers books except that, at least in the Christian fiction world. I can, because there's always the hopeful message, and that's why I read Christian fiction, is for the hopeful message. But when it comes to the villains that twist scriptures, that's not my thing. So unfortunately, I gave this one 2 stars. I do plan to continue on with this series, like I said, though. Just this one wasn't my preferred thing to read about, I guess you could say. Then I have On Thin Ice by Anne-Marie Rodgers, which I gave 2.5 stars. And then T is for Treasure by Kristin Eckhardt, which I gave 3 stars. These are both 2 books in the Tea Room Mysteries. And I should really enjoy this series, right? Like the Tea Room Mysteries. Hello, I drink so much tea, it's ridiculous. I like mysteries. But the series just hasn't been it for me. And I only have a few more, and then I'll be probably not continuing this series. Like, I own a few more, so I'll read those, review those, and then I think I'm gonna just stop the series. I'm not gonna continue it to the end, which I think is like 24 books. I don't plan to do that. This just hasn't been my favorite Guidepost mystery series, and I think it's a lot because the main 2 girls in this are cousins. They run a tea room, so I mean, that's fine. But they put themselves into a lot of more dangerous situations than other main characters from Guidepost mystery series have that I've read, and they cross the line, in my opinion, on the whole amateur sleuths getting into trouble kind of thing. And yeah, there's little details that I'm just not the biggest fan of from this series, so it is what it is. And then I have Words of Wisdom by Carolyn Greene, which is book 17 in the Secrets of Mary's Bookshop series. I have been enjoying this Guidepost mystery series. I think it's been fun. I like Mary. This book I gave 3.5 stars. Her faith was much more prominent in this book, and I liked some of the topics that it dealt with. Yeah. I don't really have much to say on this series. It's just like you can read these as standalones. That is the good thing about Guidepost mystery series. You can read them as a standalone. You don't have to read them in order. So yeah, in case you were wondering, I do enjoy this series. My favorite series is still the Secrets of the Blue Hill Library series, which I have completed. I really liked that series, but then I put this one in second, Secrets of Mary's Bookshop. There's 2 recommendations. Everywhere to Hide by Siri Mitchell. I actually enjoyed this book quite a bit, that I brought out my little sticky notes and did markers on different parts I liked. But I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, and I'm still struggling with that rating. I kind of feel like I should drop it down to 3. Maybe I will. I don't know yet. Let's talk about this book. I hauled this book in one of my hauls. I'll link it up there. And it is the premise of this girl who cannot recognize faces has witnessed, well, kind of witnessed a murder. She comes across the body and then there's the murderer. But because she can't recognize faces, she is obviously terrified, right? Like, who wouldn't be? That, oh, the murderer could be after you and you have no idea what he looks like. Like, that sounds terrifying. And because this book is written in first person, it was neat in that regard because you felt her anxiousness about the situation, which really got me involved into the story, and I liked that element. It pulled me in really well. The problems I had with this book, another positive, it had a lot about like political conspiracy theories. It had about cryptocurrency also, which isn't like a thing I know, but the opinions on cryptocurrency, we see like 2 different opinions throughout this book, and it was really interesting because I don't know that much about that industry, but it's something that I've now gone on to bunny trails after reading this book, and it's really interesting, So I liked it for those aspects. It was very much like my style of reading. But then I noticed about 100 pages in that there had been no faith content at all. And then there was absolutely no faith content within the entire book, which is going to be a theme we'll be talking about for Thomas Nelson published books. In this video, we have 2 more books to talk about. that are that same way, that are marketed as Christian fiction, but there's no faith content, which is really disappointing, to say the least. Another problem I had with this book, unfortunately, how do I put this in a nice way? Okay, I think I know how to say it. Whitney shares a bed with a guy that she has no romantic feelings for, but he apparently does have romantic feelings for her, or at their beginning at least, so there's a little, like, misunderstanding on that part, and I was just really disappointed to see that, because I didn't think that was necessary. Nothing happens, but it still was like, really? I have heard that in the author's other suspense book, Save Lies, there is a bedroom scene, which is disappointing. So yeah, I really enjoyed the elements of this book in the terms of the suspense and the mystery, but I was really disappointed about those two things. So I don't know. I liked it, but I didn't like certain elements. Like, I was really enjoying this book and really getting into it, and then that one scene happened, and then there was no faith content, so it ended up being a bit disappointing. So 3-ish stars, I don't know. It's hard. It was entertaining. It was entertaining, and it was light romance, but then you have the whole sharing a bed misunderstanding thing, and I was just, like, it wasn't necessary in my opinion. Going on to a happier note, The Catch by Lisa Harris. The last book in the U.S. Marshals trilogy. Really enjoyed this one. Overall, I'm pretty satisfied by how this series has ended. How can I say? This is the third book, so I never want to give spoilers. But okay, let's put it this way. In the first book, The Escape, we're introduced to our main girl, Madison, and it continues in her point of view for all 3 books, and she is working as a U.S. Marshal and has her own cases, but on the back burner, I say back burner loosely, but her husband was murdered prior to the start of the first book, a couple years prior, I believe, a few years prior. It's always been about her also trying to figure out who murdered him and all that kind of plot line, right? So we have her cases, and then we also have that element in the first 2 books, and this book continued in the same fashion. But the pacing of this book, I really enjoyed. It's a weird thing for me to comment on. I don't feel like I typically comment on that, but I just really liked the pacing, and then the kind of big picture. We have a lot going on in this book, a lot. But not everything is coincidentally connected like I've seen in a lot of other suspense books, and I really like that element, that it's like, this just happens to be going on at the same time that this is going on. It's not necessarily that everything's connected, which I just really liked it because that felt so much more realistic. That, hey, not everything's connected to this one big case, right? I just really liked that element. And another thing I really liked is the romance of the whole trilogy was super light between her and this other guy. It was just really light, and I really liked it. And also just happy words here is that it did not have one of my least favorite tropes for the romantic suspense. Is when, well, actually I have 2 least favorite tropes, and both of them were not in this book, so A+ for that. And that is when she gets kidnapped or something, you know, because, like, you know, that typically happens in romantic suspense books, not all of them, but it typically happens where she gets kidnapped by the psychopath that they're trying to chase. He rescues her, which is fine, but what I really liked about in this book was that Madison and Jonas, they rescue each other a lot. And that just felt so much realistic, and it was showing how capable Madison was at her job, that she wasn't a complete damsel in distress like I've read in other suspense books. Like, I've read a lot of Christian fiction romantic suspense books. I've read over 100. And I just really liked that that element was not in here, because she was capable at her job. She was good at her job, and she was able to, a lot of times, save herself. And I liked that, because she's trained for that, right? She's trained for this. She can kind of handle most of it herself. And I liked that element. And then also, when something happens dramatic, they don't kiss in front of a dead body. I see that so much, and I have ranted about that a lot, that I just cannot stand when it's like, oh, we've completed the mission, the person's dead, bleeding out in front of us. Kiss. Like, what? what? It infuriates me a lot. This book did not have that, and I was so happy. Like, that was just like, yes, that was a cherry on top for this series, and yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I probably would consider this to be my favorite series by Lisa Harris. I've read almost all of her books, so yes, that was exciting to read this one and really enjoy it. Finish out this trilogy. Really looking forward to any news of what the author will be writing next, because I've enjoyed a lot of her suspense books. And now on to contemporary books. I have a DNF to talk about, and that is The Enlightenment of Bees by Rachel Lindon. Lindon? I assume it's London. So, if you follow other Christian booktubers, you have probably seen most of us talking about it. We got together and did a little book club, and this was our first book. Some of us, it was a hit. Well, I say hit loosely. I think some of us enjoyed it. Some of us, it was a miss. I fall into the later category because I DNF'd it. There was just different things in it that added up that I just wasn't enjoying it. And I've gotten very much into the opinion that if I'm not enjoying a book and I keep forcing myself to read it, will it at least get a 4-star rating? Probably not, because if I'm already not liking the opening chapters because of content or whatever, no part that I've really, really enjoyed will overlook the content I already disliked. That might sound strict for some or harsh, but that's how I view it. So can the end of the book, can the rest of the book redeem the beginning part of content for me? And that's typically no, so I decided to DNF it. And yeah, sorry, but... Oh, Lindsey from Future in the Video. I totally forgot to mention that this book also had no faith content in it, like no Christian content, a lot of name dropping, a lot of just, yeah. I go more in depth in it a little bit in my review, and yeah, unfortunately. Second Thomas Nelson book so far in this video that had no faith content. The next book is In Search of a Prince by Toni Shiloh, which I hit on it a little bit in my last reading vlog, that I was really enjoying it, and then I ended up giving it a 1-star because... Now this also goes back to the whole really enjoyed a part of the book, but can the part of the book I didn't like because of content reasons, how does that rating work out? It still gets dependent on the content, in my opinion. For me personally, that's how I judge my books that I read. So this book, I was really enjoying the first like 75% of it. The faith content was really great, really enjoying that. Really light romance. And then the last 25%, it really kicked up in the romance regard. And there was a fade to black bedroom scene. And just a couple little things that just really annoy me. Off topic here, but how many of y'all can you touch your hands together? Like, can you undo your own dress? I see that so often. And I'm just like, I can take off my own dress. I don't need nobody's help on that. Thank you. Off topic rant. Sorry, but it really annoys me. Because, like, that's such a plot device that's just dealt to add in sexual tension. And I can't stand that. So, unfortunately, 1-star, had issues with it. Liked the faith content, but overall, there was things I didn't like, so. My last book for the contemporary genre is Out of the Blue by Janice Thompson. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It wasn't my favorite by the author, but I still liked it. I think for me, though, is I'm really not reading Amish books anymore. Like, I think I'm burnt out on them because I read so many of them when I was younger. This book follows a girl named Katie who was raised Amish, left the church, and is now working as a realtor. Now, it turns out her guy friend, who there was always kind of an understanding that they would get married, who was very distraught that when she left the church, he decided to leave the church, and now they have randomly, accidentally met again in the Englisher world. So, yeah, it was cute. It was just sweet. It was an enjoyable read. It was short. I believe it's free on Kindle Unlimited. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't really have too much to say about it. So moving on to historical, I have quite a few historical books to talk about, and then we are done. This video has already been so long, I'm so sorry. But first, a DNF. That is My Heart Belongs on Mackinac Island. I apologize, don't think that's how you pronounce it. By Carrie Fassett Pagels. I did a rant about this book, a mini rant, I guess you could say, on Instagram stories, and then a full rant on Goodreads. One of my least favorite, probably my absolute least favorite trope is the whole, I'm supposed to, one of the characters in the romance relationship are supposed to be doctoring up the other person because, you know, they're injured, they're bleeding, they possibly need stitches or a legit doctor. But no, they're doing it and they're checking them out. It's like, oh no, you're bleeding. Oh, but look at his biceps. Like, I cannot stand this trope, and I see it a lot in romantic suspense. But this one in the historical setting was just even more scandalous. Can I just, like, Like, I literally put a quote in the review on Goodreads because it's going in depth about his chest hair and all that, and I was just like, what is this? Like, what? This is why Christian fiction, especially historical fiction, gets a bad rap. Right here. I have a lot of thoughts. This video is already long enough. I have a rant and details on why this book got DNF'd and why I would like to give it 1 stars even though I didn't finish it. Yeah, there was that. Okay. For our third Thomas Nelson book, this one had very, very light, very little Christian content. And that was The Letter from Briarton Park by Sarah E. Ladd. I have read all of her books, and they're typically just easy reads that I enjoy. They're Regency books. I typically give them about 3 stars. I give this one 2 stars. There was different elements. It reminded me a lot of one of her prior books. And it's just really, really, really weak on the faith content. Like, there's a lot of moments where we could have seen the characters' faiths or certain conversations or having their faiths grow through what's going on in the book. But there wasn't really anything, and it was just kind of disappointing. Yeah, disappointing. Moving on to happier topics, we have The Spice King by Elizabeth Camden. I gave this book 4 stars. I talked about it in the Phone Apps book tag that I did recently, and I really enjoyed this book. It was lighter in the romance department compared to her other books. I really enjoyed the random historical setting of before the FDA was invented, created, established, that's the word I'm looking for. And it had to do a lot with food laws of the early 1900s and plants and agriculture and all that kind of stuff, and I really enjoyed it. Don't think it's for everyone because of that topic, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fascinating, but I mean, I find those topics fascinating now, so like in today's time period. So it was just really interesting to have a historical view on that, and I'm definitely looking forward to continuing the rest of the series. Talked about it a bit before, so yeah. Then we have To Disguise the Truth by Jen Turano, which is the third and final book in the Bleecker Street Inquiry Agency series. Always bittersweet to say goodbye to a series from Jen Turano because you just fall in love with the characters. I was really excited about this one because we get Eunice, I believe that's how you pronounce her name. We get her story and why has she always been wearing widow's clothing? Why does she always wear a thick veil? We find out all of that information in this book, and I was really excited about reading this one. I gave it 4 stars. There was just a lot going on in this book for me. There was a lot of different elements, a lot of characters to keep up with, and because it had been such a while since I had read the prior book, I just wish I kind of would have skimmed the first 2 books maybe again before I picked up this one. But yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I still enjoyed it. It was still entertaining, still humorous because it's a Jen Turano book. But yeah, a lot going on in this one. And then I have 3 rereads to talk about, and it's still in historical genre. I've already talked about these on Instagram, but that's okay, let's talk about them here. I reread Stealing the Preacher by Karen Whittemire, which I gave 4 stars. Still really enjoyed it, very humorous, love the faith content, just an overall very enjoyable read. And then I also reread A Tailor-Made Bride by Karen Whittemire, which I gave 3.5 stars. The main guy in this one really kind of infuriates me, but I like the message of that we can use our gifts no matter how big or small for the Lord. It's just, I like that message. He just was annoying. I much prefer this couple. This is one of my favorite historical books probably, though. It's just so cute. A little romancy at times, but still really cute. And then my last book I will talk about today is Love Finds You in Groom, Texas by Janice Hanna, which he has republished it as The Last Groom in Town? Last Groom in Texas? Last Groom in Town? By Janice Thompson. Same book. I believe this one you can get free on Kindle Unlimited though if you would like to. I give this one 4.5 stars. Again, it's still, it's so much fun, and the thing is, this book is just so humorous. I love the setting. Matchmaking, one of my favorite things to read about in my historical fiction books. And, yes, 4.5 stars. I don't know what else to say besides I just think it's really, really fun. Very much enjoyable. I found myself laughing a lot during reading this one because of characters. But then the faith content's also really great. And yes, just really enjoyed this one. Ending the video on a high note. That's how we like to do it. Okay. Some of my recent reads. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I do want though to try to do this every 10 or so books, so this video won't be so long. We'll see how that works out. Wish me luck. But there we go. Okay, so we had some misses. We had some DNFs. But we also had a few hits. So I mean, I'm pretty satisfied so far with my reading. I mean, I already have a 5-star of the year. That's almost unheard of. Because I went last year, all of 2021, without one 5-star book. Like, that was a new read. So I'm really excited. I've already had a 5-star book with Barefoot Memories by Taylor Bennett. Super, super excited about that. Yeah, we had our first 1 stars too, but... Quick note, I have read quite a bit of manga here in the last couple months as well, but I don't share those reviews publicly on Goodreads in the sense of if you're friends with me or you follow me on Goodreads, hi, things will get sent out right to your feed and you'll see me in your feed. I don't have Goodreads do that for my manga reviews. So you can go to my manga shelf and check it out. I read a couple series that were misses for me. I'm hoping I'll have a good one here soon, but yeah, it is what it is. I've also kind of made the note that on my Goodreads reading challenge, I will only add manga books that I really enjoyed. I won't add all of the ones I've read. So that also helps. Like, I've only read 1 so far this year, hopefully 2 by the time this video is out, because 1 is releasing that I'm excited about. I'll have 2 added to my Goodreads list. But yeah, so far, there's my little manga update as well. Still attempting certain ones, avoiding others, but you know, that's how it goes. In Christian fiction too. So, 24 books, I believe that was, to talk about. I'm tired. But that was exciting to get them all done. I would love to know if you've read any of these. You may have enjoyed certain books more than I did, but that's okay. We all have different reading opinions. I'd love to know if any of these have caught your eye. I'm sorry I didn't talk about them too much. This was kind of a catch-up, so we can talk about the rest of the books and other videos that will be a little more in-depth on it. But hopefully this gave like kind of a sneak peek, kind of got you interested in some, maybe avoiding others. And as always, all the reviews will be linked down below for you to check out if you would like to. So I think that's it for this video. It was so good to talk to y'all today. I hope you have an absolutely lovely rest of your day. I'm Lindsey from the blog Books for Christian Girls at blogspot.com, where in 2022 there is a new review every Monday and Friday. I try to post a new video on this channel every other Thursday or Friday. Doesn't always happen because of life, but I'm trying to do better and get on a good schedule to talk about these books. And then I'm on Instagram somewhat randomly, but I am being much more active on Instagram stories. So I would love to see y'all on there, do a lot of polls, and I will see y'all next time. Bye!